Declare the meeting open and welcome you to this month's meeting of Council. The recording of this Council meeting will be available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with Council policy, I will now ask the staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the South East Nation, the Malacca people of the Yuin River, and the Lilliquanni people of the Far South. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. We recognise that we have much to learn from Aboriginal people today who represent the world's oldest continued living culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. In attendance tonight we have Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Jessup, Councillor Temby, Councillor Burgess, Councillor Gibson, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Camber-Smith. General Manager, would you like to introduce your staff?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We've got our Director Governance Strategy and Sustainable Development, Matthew Grimsey, our Director People and Corporate Services, David Spinks, Director Infrastructure, Climate and Environmental Services, Lockie Krantz, Acting Director Community Wellbeing Services, Lyle Ground, our Media and Communications Coordinator, Kelly Davis, and our Executive Assistant, Sandy Rustell.
Thank you. 2.1, apologies, we have nil. 2.2, leave of absence, Councillor Deputy Mayor Toby Thorpe, and absence nil. Councillors, do you wish to declare any interests? Thank you.
Agenda number 17.005/23.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 16.010/23, adoption of the long-term financial plan 2023-2024, budget estimates and rates and charges and annual plan. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Temby, do I have a seconder? Councillor Camber-Smith. Councillor Temby, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say thank you to you, Sally, our fellow councillors and Jason and ELT for the work to put together the annual plan and financial planning documents. There have been many long hours discussing and considering in detail the information provided to us, measured against our on-the-ground knowledge of community expectations.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Burgess.
I'd like to move an amendment, if I could, please.
Yes.
Pass a copy out.
Do you put your mic on and yeah.
I'd like to move an amendment, if I could, please, Mayor.
Okay. If you'd like to read that out once passed around.
I'd like to move the amendment that instead of the 12, 8 and 6%, that we go to an 8%, and that's in paragraph B. I'll read that out, will I?
Yes, please.
Pursuant to Section 70 of the Local Government Act 1993, the Yuin Valley Council Financial Management Strategy and Long-Term Financial Plan 2023-24 to 2032-33, included in Attachment A to this report, is adopted subject to amendments by changing references to a 12% increase in the 23-24, followed by increases of 8 and 6%, wherever or however appearing in form to an 8% increase in 2023-24, followed by increase of 8% and 8%. And also in paragraph D, rates and charges are made and levied for the purposes contemplated under the Local Government Act 1993 for the financial year 1st July 2023 to the 30th of June 2024 in accordance with the resolution set out in the amended attachment C, reflecting an 8% general rate increase.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Burgess's amended motion?
I'll second it to discuss it.
Thank you. That's Councillor O'Neill. Okay, do you wish to speak to your amended motion?
Yes, I do, Mayor.
Yes?
As we should all be aware, we are experiencing extreme pressure from inflation and high interest rates, and it is causing stress on households, businesses and individuals. I agree that we must move towards operating in surplus. What I don't agree with is that to do it in 2 years, we have to impose a 12% increase in the first year. I would like to see 8% in the first year, which is much closer to the CPI, which is approximately 7.1 for this financial year, and the current inflation rate of 6.4. By changing the proposed rates in the first 3 years of the LT, the long-term financial plan, to 8, 8 and 8%, we return to a surplus a year later, while at the same time decreasing the burden and the effects to ratepayers and the general community.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other councillor that wish to speak to that? Did you say that? Yeah. Councillor O'Neill?
Yep, look, I can see both sides of the argument, but I think interest rates went up again last night, and I don't think everyone around this table can experience the same stress that a lot of people in the community would be feeling at the time because of our age and when we got into the housing market and things like that. So I do feel for these people, and yeah, I'd be interested just to hear from David and the officials on council to see what they would think of that proposal. Is it 8% increases to get where we need to be, or yeah? Anyway, I'll be interested to hear from David and see what their advice is.
Just in response to that, around the table, I think we all have family members as well too, and I have been explaining hard and why we have to do this and what might become of the extra charge to them, and honestly most of them have realised that it is, the 12% is hard for the first year, we know, but it is worth it to be able to get out of where we are. But I understand, David, and I think most people have that sympathy, but it's how we sell it back to the community. And there is hardship. We've talked about that in here, that people can come and apply for the hardship. But I will pass that through to you, General Manager, to see whether...
Thank you, Mayor. What I can say in response to the proposal is that changing the 12% for next year to 8 would increase our forecast deficit quite considerably. So at the moment, the budget papers show a deficit of $1.28 million. If we change that to 8%, it would be something more in the vicinity of 1.85. That figure's just subject to some final checking, but be of that order. The cash that we would generate over the 10-year life of the financial plan would be around about $5 million less. We wouldn't reach surplus until year 4, so that's 26-27. We'd make a small deficit still in year 3, and then that surplus in year 4 is only a very, very tiny one. It's only about, the modelling shows about $17,000. So it doesn't provide any contingency for emergencies and unexpected events. And then in the subsequent years, so we've spoken in workshops about, our surplus, wanting it to be, sort of that 2 to 3 kind of % of revenue as being a reasonable buffer. Dropping the rate increase back would sort of bring it back to sort of around that sort of 0.5% to maybe 1.5%. So it just ratchets everything down basically. But surplus isn't until year 4, and even then it's a tiny one.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cameron-Smith.
I'd like to speak against the motion, if I may. I mean, people will know that I've asked a huge amount of questions on these budget papers over the last couple of weeks, and I do have. Am I allowed to do this or not?
You want to speak against the amendment?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Sorry, the amendment, amended. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely share Councillor Burgess's concerns, and I've had a very heavy heart and lots of sleepless nights about this rate rise. What I'm not prepared to do is, and I would have contemplated the cutting of certain services had we managed to come to that agreement. I also tried very hard during our budget conversations to reduce the burden on the less well-off by increasing rates on those with empty houses and vacant land that could otherwise be used for housing, to scale planning fees to make it cheaper for those building tiny homes and more expensive for those building mansions. I've argued for an increase in industrial and commercial rates because all evidence points to corporate profits being the cause of inflation, and the large corporates in the Huon are not paying their way. And I've also argued for a consolidation of our aquatic centre expenditure into one excellent facility. Those things haven't been accepted by my fellow councillors, and therefore I can see no benefit in extending the pain over more and more years. And I do feel at least confident that we are putting in place a number of measures that should lead to efficiencies in future. For instance, I'm encouraged that we are undertaking a rates review this coming financial year, and also reviewing aquatic centres, recreation facilities and the independent living units. And I'm also very hopeful we can find internal efficiencies through IT tools and other measures. And I feel that sort of in return for us agreeing a 12% rate rise in this first year, that we then have the mandate, if you like, to push hard on all of these things with a view to reducing forecast rate increases in our LTFP for later years, for future years. And I did want to remind ratepayers of the discounts and assistance available for those on low incomes. There is this thing called the pensioner remission scheme, but it's available to anybody of any age who holds certain low-income cards to claim a discount of up to 1/3 of their rates, which is paid by the state government. Council also has a hardship policy, and by supporting a 12% increase, I would ask that both these schemes are prominently advertised, made simple and easy to access, and, if possible, information to be included with our rates notice. I do have enormous sympathy for those in our community who are struggling with soaring house costs and inflation. But I'm not certain that delaying or stretching this deficit over a number of years would be helping them any more than having a one hit followed by investment that will actually lead us to be able to deliver better and higher quality services, including to those in need through our sort of community wellbeing programs, etc. So while I'm really grateful for all the hard work by directors in progressing this budget process and answering our many questions. And I do hope that next year we can start earlier, have more options and scenarios available to us, and possibly take a leaf out of Kingborough's book by opening up the draft budget to public consultation. So I'm minded to stick to the original motion and not the amended motion.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else that would like to make a statement? Or yes, Councillor Gibson.
I'd like to actually concur with pretty much everything that Councillor Camber-Smith has said, and I can't foreshadow a motion at this stage, can I? Anyway, I was going to foreshadow a motion that that included the reassessment of rates and rates distribution. I'd like to also include a suggestion box for any services that the public feel they would like to cut. And if that came to councillors rather than to staff, it won't take any time, but it means, and it's a fairly informal sort of arrangement, but it means if we get a lot of people saying, you know, they don't want to spend money on X, then we can explore that further and have a more rigorous sort of process to check that. And I'd like to also reiterate in that foreshadowed motion that we should propose, we should advertise the hardship and relief options for rates.
I just need to gain some...
Technical.
Yeah, well, because you haven't got it written and shared, becomes quite technical for Matthew, being that this is a really crucial...
If the amended motion doesn't come up, then I can give you more detail.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Yes, Councillor Jessup.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't normally say this, but I actually agree with most of what Jenny has just said, and that can be on the public record. Look, it is difficult, and there's no doubt that we're sort of partly in this position because of the actions of people in the past. You know, I think we're up to 5 or 6 years now, 5 out of the last 6 years of deficit. You know, we're robbing the future. I think it's roughly, David might correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something around that figure. You know, every time we run a deficit, we take money out of our reserves, which are there to renew and refresh the facilities that we all come to use. So we're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul. I don't want to get into a Dutch auction here, but yeah, I think Councillor Burge's idea is fine if we can come up with $600,000 worth of savings out of the budget, and we've, God knows, we actually tried to do that. Well, I think we spent 5 workshops and we've cut the budget one way and the other way, and so this isn't just a pluck of a figure that we thought sounded nice. Yeah, there is no doubt that the long-term financial plan will change. We know that there's more asset work that we're still, you know, probably out into the 4 or 5 year mark that needs to be brought in, and I know, you know, Lockie's doing a lot of work to try to work on some of that stuff, but there is no doubt we have significant asset work to do, and no matter what this council looks like in 2 years' time when Minister Street has merged us, those culverts, those bridges, those roads are still going to be there, and they're still going to be falling apart, and we're still going to have to pay for them. If we run our reserves down to a ridiculously low level over time, it gives us much less sway in a future council to ensure that money is spent in our local area. So, yeah, I know 12% is going to be a hit, going to be a hit for everybody. I concur with Councillor Gibson that, you know, maybe part of our material that goes out with rates need to stress the hardship options and stuff more clearly. But look, if there was any way to get this rate increase down, I think we would. The other thing, we know we're under a promise from the General Manager and staff that we will be doing some more review of costs over the next sort of 6 months or so. You know, we're hoping to bring in software and planning that will streamline things. As Jenny has pushed for, we certainly have put some money in the budget to do a proper review of rates, to look at different ways of rating. But, you know, again, we put a figure on that, so we can not do things like that and not move forward and save some money and reduce the rate. So that's unfortunate. I think has been the culture here a bit. Don't do it. Keep the rates low. We know from the paper that we're the 5th lowest rates in Tasmania, but the reality is we are by no means the 5th lowest income municipality, and that's as hard as that sounds. Not denying the fact that there are certainly many people who live in our community who are desperately poor and desperately trying to keep their houses and stuff. But again, that's why we have the hardship options, and hopefully people will make use of those. And I hope that the staff will be able to, you know, generously bend the rules, or, you know, not bend the rules, but you know, be liberal in their application of applicability for those schemes. So I can't support at this point Councillor Burge's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yep, you're right. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I agree. It's been a long and difficult decision to make, but what we're doing is not only talking about what we can afford or the financial situation, it's also what we need as a community, and we do need to have some contingency in times of an emergency. We don't know if there's going to be another emergency in 2 days' time. So we need to plan. You know, climate change is upon us, and so therefore I can't see how, as David Spinks, the director, has said, after 4 years we would only end up with a very minor surplus. I think that I don't agree with, as much as I understand his sentiment, what we do need to do is look at the plan that we've created, which is a forward-thinking plan, and it does more to address than the financial instability that we faced when we started as councillors. It builds on our resilience to climate change by the employment of a climate change officer and an emergency management and recovery officer, improvements to our stormwater, and better maintenance overall of our infrastructure and assets. So I don't agree with the motion.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add to all of that, which I think was actually fairly well said, and I think, you know, I think we're all pretty much on the same page with everything. But I just want to let people know that on average, an average rate, rateable year, it's about $4 a week. Now that $4 a week is for a full payment on an average wage. If you have some sort of concession card or you are getting a discount, it's not going to be that much. I also just want to add that, you know, the community have asked us to include a lot of things that the other council didn't have, like the climate change initiatives, and it should probably be included, but all that comes at a cost as well. You know, we can't have things for free. We can't just employ people for free. So as much as we've listened to the community, we also need to build in a cost factor for that to go forward. But like everybody else, if you are struggling, then please just come and have a chat about it. But we are low rated anyway, as opposed to anybody else. Not that that means it's any better, but, you know, $4 a week should be copeable with help if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, just would like to just emphasise what Councillor Gibson said and what I was suggesting about public consultation. I think there's a lot to be said at, you know, starting that conversation at an early stage with the public about what they want to see from us. Many people, I think, out there are unaware of the extremely wide range of services that we currently supply, because a lot of people, their only sort of contact with council is through roads, rates and rubbish. They forget the multitude of other things that we offer to, sets of people that have, particular needs within the community, as well as all the recreation facilities, etc., that we provide, and all the halls, and the list goes on. And I'm pleased that in our budget papers there is a significant amount of our services are listed in there, so that people can start to realise that we're not just, a council now is quite different to a council 20 years ago. We've also had a lot of things that have been pushed down on us through having to be the supplier of last resort, and we've had increasingly stringent regulatory controls that we've been obliged to undertake, particularly in sort of environmental health and things. And because we maintain an extremely large portfolio of public facilities for quite a small population compared to many of the other councils out there. So I think it would be very worthwhile just, at some point saying to community, well, this is what we do and this is the impact on rates. What are you prepared to what would you want to be prepared to shed if you had to? If you want to reduce your rates by 1 or 2%, these are your choices. I don't think we've really put that, question that starkly, and maybe we should.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor O'Neill.
Just like to comment on the suggestion that we should be listening to the public on what they want. The only thing that could concern me there is you're going for majority rules. So a lot of people in the regions that might have services might miss out on those because the people in the main population don't want that. So I think as councillors we also have a responsibility to look after all the regions.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Gibson.
Just through you, Mayor, just back on that, I totally agree with you, Councillor O'Neill, and I think that I was making a suggestion that it would be a suggestions box, and that we then have to obviously make the call as to whether or not we think that that's the right way to go.
Thank you. I think that what we'll do now, if no one else wants to speak on that, we might, do you want to close before we go to the vote? Yes?
Yes, if I could, Mayor.
Yes, you may.
I've talked to a lot of people in the last month, or the last couple of weeks especially, younger people that are buying houses, or younger people renting. They have, just to say that a 12% is just $4 a week. That $4 a week could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Just the fact that the 12%, it could be the compounding effect with the increase in prices in fuel, power, food, and don't forget rent will go up as well, everything else. And don't forget that an increase in the commercial rate, which I'm part of, I pay a commercial rate. At the end of the year, it's around about, my rates will increase by about $500, and I should imagine anyone that's got a small business and premises in the Huon Valley will be about the same. And those extra costs will have to be passed on to the consumer, so therefore putting more pressure on young families within the Huon. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So what I'll do now is do the vote on the amended motion. All those in favour of the amended motion, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Burgess and Councillor O'Neill. Those against the amended motion, please raise your hand. That's Canberra, Smith, Gibson, Doyle, Armstrong, Jessup and Temby, and the amended motion is lost. So we go back to the original motion.
Mayor, you also have a foreshadowed amendment.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you've got the wording?
Yes.
Okay, you
So
can go ahead.
it is simply to add a point G, that council will work on reassessment of rates distribution methodology. It will advertise a contact point for councillors for suggestions to reduce services. It will advertise rate relief options to the public and reassess the long-term financial plan for following years.
Councillor Temby, are you happy for that to be added to the original motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yep. Okay, so now yep. Are you happy with that too, Councillor Cambersmith? Yes. Okay, we'll open the floor now do you want to speak to the original motion with the added foreshadow?
Just briefly, I believe this plan and the financial documents set a goal to build trust through good governance and better communication. It aims to support and value council employees in their work serving the community, who have supported our community to respond to and recover from several severe weather events, the 2018 floods, the 2019 summer bushfires and the 2020 pandemic. It aims to support community health, wellbeing and resilience through various measures, including a project officer to transition the food hub to the community via the Heartland Regenerative Farm School program. Other projects include the Mental Health and Resilience Project, The Right Place, the Huon Valley Youth Working Group, to name just a few. Various community facilities, including halls, medical centres, childcare, recreation, playground, marine sports centres and swimming pools. I'm confident this annual plan and financial documents is in the best interest of the community now and for the future, that the Council will move to a financially sustainable position. Financial sustainability will ensure equity between generations and ratepayers, in that each generation is responsible for the cost of the resources they consume.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. I think just for the public that don't realise, I might just read out what we do have. We have 3 cemeteries, we have 2 sports centres and 1 outdoor pool. We have 9 recreation grounds, 21 public marine facilities, 14 playgrounds and parks, 4 skate parks, 2 medical centres, 3 childcare centres, 3 retirement villages, 3 waste transfer stations, 712 kilometres of roading, 141 of rural sealed, 510 of rural unsealed, 53 of urban sealed and 8 of urban unsealed, 18 community halls and venues, 22 public toilets. We have our community wellbeing program. We have emergency management and recovery, economic development, climate change mitigation and adaptation. We have extensive curbside delivery. We have NRM weed management programs. We have environmental health through vaccination, food business assessment and on-site waste management. We have our building and plumbing regulations, delivery and maintenance of new and existing capital projects, including bridges, stormwater, frontline customer service, compliance enforcement and roadside tree management, footpath cleaning and graffiti removal. So when you start like that, we have a lot of services that we do. When people don't think they've got a service, I'm pretty sure they'd find something in amongst all that. Would anybody else like to speak on the motion? Yes, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you, through me, just quickly. I just think we would like to just reiterate that none of us have found this process particularly easy. It's not a nice thing to have to do to the community. I'm sure we'll all feel the pressure of what we're deciding to do later on, but to continue to deliver the services we have, it is a necessary action. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, no other comments. Do you want to close, Councillor Temby?
No, I think I've said enough, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll put that to the vote. All in favour of the recommendation plus the the motion. Yep. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Smith, O'Neill, Gibson, Doyle, Armstrong, Jessup, Temby and Burgess. Thank you everyone for a very hard decision and lots of thoughts gone into that. I thank Councillor Burgess for having the courage to and for speaking up, but I do realise that we're all here for the right reasons, so thank you all. Okay, agenda number 16.011/23, adoption of fees and charges for the 23-24 financial year for community wellbeing. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Councillor Jessup, and a seconder, Councillor Smith. Councillor Jessup, would you like to speak please, to that motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't speak for a long time on this. We made an ideological decision, I suppose, that the costs to the council on average were increasing about 8%, and most of these charges were increased by about that rate to I suppose, counter the costs of supporting these facilities. There's only one cost that I wasn't sure about, which I might come back to later. But as a general rule, yeah, there's a little bit of variation on some of the smaller costs, but those costs that have gone up more than 8%, I understand, are more a straight cost recovery type model as well. So I commend these fees, charges to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, as a general rule, I am supportive of increased fees and charges, as I think it's appropriate for many non-essential services to follow a user pays model rather than necessarily being subsidised by our general rates. And I wasn't sure whether just another question really, whether the increase in this section of our fees and charges, which I understand was missed out of the last the fees and charges, which I thought was a deliberate action, so I hadn't asked about it. But have these increased fees been written now into the financial projections going forward?
Pass that through to you, Director. Through to you, General Manager.
Through you, Mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else to? Yes, Councillor Temby.
It's just a minor question. On page 2, public liability insurance for all casual, ad hoc and regular hire bookings, exclusions apply for particular activities. Are they listed somewhere?
Through you, General Manager, if I could go to the... Thank you. Director?
Yes, the exclusions are listed, and they are provided to those applicants that are looking to use those facilities. So.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Jessup.
Through you, Mayor, to the General Manager, I suppose. And I'm sure this doesn't happen often, I would think, but a graveside service no burial, which is a new fee of $500. That seems very high for, and I'm assuming most of these fees, as we've talked about, are sort of set at a cost recovery basis, and I'm just wondering what the $500 cost recovery for somebody who wants to have a graveside ceremony with no burial, because there's be limited costs, I would think. Can I just clarify if that's a correct amount for that?
Yep, through you, General Manager, to the Acting Director, if I may.
I'll just have to get to that. So there's, with cemeteries, it's a tricky one. So we obviously have certain one-off costs that we get with a burial site or an activity that occurs on the site, but we have continued maintenance costs that happen at that site, which are ongoing indefinitely as long as we have the cemetery under our ownership and management. With an event that occurs there are a number of staff involvement in that. So we have the administration component. We also have a number of staff that need to be present preparing for that event to happen. And then there's obviously works that occur after that. So there is a cost recovery component to that we factored in. But cemeteries is a difficult one. Like I said, the maintenance cost, we have to maintain that site regardless. When we get to a capacity, we no longer have that, for want of a better term, income, but we continue to maintain it, so there's always going to be that maintenance cost.
Yes, Councillor Burgess.
I just a question. I see on page 1 that you've still got the Geeston Conference Room on the list, which I believe now is totally taken over by the Geeston Controlling Authority.
Through you, General Manager. Can
Fair point. Through you, Mayor. We'll remove that one off.
Thank you. Do we have any other? Okay. Do you have any closing, Councillor Jessup?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Well then, I will put that forward. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Agenda item number 17.005/23. That's right, isn't it? Yep. 2022 National Resource Management Environment Grant Program Assessment Outcome. Yes, Councillor Temby has left the room. Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Yes, Councillor Camber-Smith. And a seconder? Councillor Jessup. Councillor Camber-Smith, do you wish to speak to this?
Just briefly,
Yeah.
I think these are great. These are such excellent ways in which council can support and activate community volunteer groups to undertake projects that will have enormous community benefit. And I'd like, it'd been that great to see this model carried over into other services at some point in the future as well. I congratulate these groups. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you for that. Do I have any other? I mean, as we'll see, yep, as we see in the recommendation, there was the Upper Ewan Wildlife Monitoring Landcare Group Water Watch Project, the Gores Begone Landcare Group Gores Mulching and Field Day Project, and the Petches Bay Anti-Gores Association, the Strategic Gores Control. So as you say, that it is all very worthy projects.
Disappointing to see no foxglove control groups.
Yes, Councillor Jessup.
Mayor, thank you. As one of the largest land bankers of gores in the community, I think I can say I'm quite happy to see less of it. But look, let me say from an agricultural point of view that it is disappointing that the state government has walked away from many of the noxious weed like ragwort and gorse. You just cannot get any interest out of the state government for the control of these quite pervasive pests, and as much as I love foxgloves, they have their place, and that's not in the bush. I was disappointed that there maybe weren't some more groups applying for this. I'm not sure if we had a budget that we reached and then that's it, but certainly if there is more budget to allocate. Yeah, I know Councillor Gibson's talked about landcare groups that want to do revegetation and stuff. Yeah, no applications from these groups. So I just wonder if we need to do a little bit more promotion of this maybe next year if there's a wider budget. So that's probably the comment there.
My answer to that one would be that that's the job that we need to do. We need to promote these things when they come up. So as councillors, we need to encourage groups to participate and put in for grants in the programs that we have. So if we had a great lot, we'd look at it and have to look at it for the next year to increase the money that we set out. So that all becomes part of that community consultation that we can do that doesn't put the pressure back on the staff. So, yeah.
So what's your unspent now?
I would have to ask about money unspent.
It says it was all spent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Could I just ask? Sorry,
Yes, you
through
may.
you, Mayor, if we could, whenever these sort of things are coming up, that we do get informed. I think we do mostly, because if it's just put on our Facebook page, it's potluck. I think whether we see it and remember to share it. But if we're informed, I would certainly do what I could to advertise it through different Facebook groups.
Maybe when I give you my weekly update, I can put anything on that's coming up. At
That would
the
be
bottom
great.
Of that.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
And I'm also working with communications on doing a mayor's piece. So in the UN News, if we do have any grants open, I can definitely put it in there and plug it through that way as well. So
That's good.
yeah,
And,
so
I
think
really
we can do
appreciate
that.
the things that are coming through from the wellbeing group, the sort of monthly calendar.
Yeah.
That's enabled us to put that sort of stuff out to the
Yeah,
you
to
know
the
retrofit
public. Yeah.
groups.
Thank you. Sorry, Kelly. Would you like to close, Councillor Jess? Oh, no, it was Canberra Smith. Sorry. He leant up there, he put me off then. Sorry about that, Jenny.
That's 'cause
Yes,
he's always
would you
talking.
like to close, Councillor Canberra Smith?
No, merely to say that I recommend the motion
Yeah.
to the group.
Thank you. All right, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in speak for the motion, please raise your hand. Want to vote for the motion, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. And if you'd like to ask Councillor Thank you to those people who joined our gallery. Thank you, Amy. This evening, and those who took the time to watch the meeting online this evening. The next meeting of ordinary meeting of council is Wednesday the 28th of June. So I'd have to ask you to leave, Amy. Oh, we're not going into close. Okay, you can stay, Amy. The meeting is closed at 6:47. Okay. Yeah.